Dundee City Council leader John Alexander admits the City of Discovery is currently enduring a climate emergency. He is calling on leadership to try and help educate those within Dundee and the surrounding areas on why this is such an important topic.
Dundee City Council has declared a climate emergency, and what we mean by that is what we want to see is a city reacting to this wider agenda. And today is about making sure that we don't lose any momentum behind that declaration, and we say very clearly that we are setting our sights on being bold and ambitious and delivering on the targets that we've set out within our papers, but also that we are wanting individuals, businesses and our wider public sector organisations to all contribute towards that agenda, because the council can't do it in isolation. I think the reality, of course, is that Dundee's contribution will be minute in that global scale, but nonetheless I think it's really essential that every village, town and city shows real leadership when we're talking about the climate emergency. And you only have to scour the news feeds for a couple of minutes to be able to find what the real tangible difficulty that the climate emergency is causing. I was just reading an article, for example, on the fact that the Great Barrier Reef is now being identified at severe risk because of global warming. And I think you only have to consider recent news reports of the Amazon rainforest and all of what that means in reality to people. I have a 2 and a 4-year-old, so I'm gravely concerned about the world that they'll inherit. And the actions that I take now will hopefully leave a positive legacy, but we need to do more. The cornerstone of all this is about education, because the biggest contribution you're going to get in terms of reducing carbon is from individuals changing their habits and the way in which they do things, and from companies and organisations changing the way in which they do things. So that's the biggest piece, I think, of the jigsaw, which will make the biggest contribution. The council in isolation will contribute something. It's not going to be a game changer. So we really need the council to show leadership, to say we want the city to become carbon neutral, and we want to bring those partners to the table and make sure they're contributing to that wider agenda as well. If the council didn't show that leadership and show that absolute bold determination to tackle this issue, then I don't necessarily think there would be anybody standing in the wings waiting to do that.
For members of the Extinction Rebellion group within Dundee, it is a relief to see action being taken. They hope that changes can avert any further damage to the planet.
We made a deputation actually back in June to the council, and this is the sort of formal public announcement of that. And we're really pleased about that, because hopefully that begins to infiltrate the sort of minds of all of our Dundee citizens, and really getting Dundee citizens to think about not only the kind of impact that they make on the planet in their day-to-day lives, but how they can hold the council, the government's industry to account and really make positive impacts for the future. We've been warned that this is going to happen for decades now, and it's really reached breaking point, and we can't ignore it any longer. And it is an emergency, and we need to treat it as such. There's some really tangible changes that could be made just through sort of government policy and industry policy, and we're going to be looking at that closely and scrutinising those decisions, and consulting the public as well widely, so that those decisions are made with the public in mind. The demonstrations that we've seen, the really peaceful demonstrations that we've seen right across not just the country but the planet, has really shown that the public are becoming more conscious and are elevating this to emergency status. And I think our leaders and as consumers, industry really needs to start taking heed of that.
I think it's mammoth in terms of what it means on the ground in our approach, and actually if we can do everything that we want to do, if we can bring all those key partners from the public sector, if we can bring businesses into line, if we can provide that educational piece, then actually that's going to be a tremendous legacy. And Claire's absolutely right in saying hindsight, we should have been doing this for decades, well before I was even born, in fact. But we are where we are now, and what we need to do is make sure that we rise to the challenge and do something tangible and quickly.
The public are demanding action is taken now, with Alexander and his team making plans to improve matters for the better in Dundee and beyond. Jordan Burt, That's TV.